There's another specification method for RGB whose underpinnings are somewhat technical, but the good news is that it's simply another way to use numbers to define RGB colors. It's really just another face on the RGB system. It's like the same phrase with the same meaning spoken in a different language. As you can see by the icon in the title, this slide only applies to web design, not print design. You will normally only see or use hexadecimal if you're specifying areas of color on web pages, rather than dealing with the colors of graphics that are placed on web pages. Web programmers like this specification system because they often represent numbers using the base 16 number system called hexadecimal instead of the base 10 system we normally use. Hexadecimal numbers are used to define each of the R, G, and B color numbers that you learned about in the last slide. Hexadecimal uses the numbers 0 to 9 and then the letters A to F to represent the digits 10 to 16. Here you see the hexadecimal equivalents for the three RGB numbers. Each of the three RGB component numbers is converted into its two-digit equivalent in hexadecimal, and then they're lumped together in one continuous string, as you see here. F2A320 is the exact same orange color used in the RGB example in the last slide. Again, hexadecimal just uses a different numbering system to define RGB color numbers. You can see this in the Photoshop color panel shown here, which is exactly the same as the panel showed in the previous slide, except that it uses hexadecimal numbers for that orange color instead of RGB numbers. The hexadecimal numbers for the RGB color are outlined in red. Hexadecimal is used in HTML and cascading style sheets. I'm going to mention CSS fairly often in this course, but it's too technical to get into the nuts and bolts of it. You don't need to understand HTML, CSS, or hexadecimal unless you're dealing directly with web page code. Luckily, most web page authoring programs generate it automatically behind the scenes without you having to deal with it directly. Here's an example of a piece of CSS code called a rule using hexadecimal to define the background color of a web page. Here is a skills challenge. As in the last slide, go to your favorite graphics program and find the interface for setting RGB colors. You should be able to use hexadecimal numbers instead of regular numbers for any RGB color. After you feel comfortable with this, go to the next video.